Hey everyone, how's it going? So last time what we did is we got set up with Bootstrap, which means we've inherited this nice style as a starting point. Obviously we're not finished with the style, so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to actually go and add our own custom style sheet to this, which will make this look a whole lot nicer. So like I said, if you're not interested in learning about CSS, you can copy and paste this code from the zip file attached to the lecture you're currently on. But I will say you should probably stick around and watch us set this up first, because you might not know how to set this up if you've never used Node.js and Express and Pug. So yeah, what we're going to do is start by creating a folder for our CSS file. So I'll create a new folder by right-clicking and selecting new folder, and this is going to be called public. So public, okay, and then inside that public folder I'll create another folder called CSS. Now we'll also have other folders in here for images and JavaScript files, but we'll just create the CSS one for now. And you can see Visual Studio Code has listed them side by side because it knows that the CSS folder is empty, so it doesn't want to take up space showing me an empty folder. But anyway, to create a file inside of that CSS folder, we're going to right click on the CSS word and then click New File. And inside there, we'll create a file called login.css. Okay, great. So here's our login.css file. And you can even check up here just to make sure the path is correct, that you've saved it in the right place. It should be public css login.css. So anyway, this is where our star is going to go. And just to verify that it all worked, we can add a star with the curly brackets. And inside there, I'll just put color equals, or color colon red, I should say. So what this is doing is saying everything is going to have a red text font. So this just means when we refresh the page and we see this in red, we know it worked, okay? Obviously, we won't keep this and we'll come back and change this very shortly. But just keep that in there for now. And then let's go back to our login layout file and add a reference to this. So underneath the Bootstrap CSS line, we're going to add a link. And if you go down, you can see an option for colon CSS. So click on that, and it adds this rel style sheet. It's also added href style.css, but ours is not called style.css, so just change that. In fact, we're going to get rid of that, and let's just say slash css slash login.css, like that. Okay, so you're wondering, why didn't we specify the public name here? Why have we just went straight to CSS? Why didn't we use public/CSS like this? Well, the reason we didn't do that is because we're going to serve this file so that it can be used by this page. Now, what does serving a file mean? Well, to give you a quick overview, serving a file is a way to present static files to the user, or in a way that the user can use them or access them. So a static file is one that is not processed by a server before it's given to the user. So for example, an image, a CSS file, a JavaScript file that the client is using, are all examples of static files, because when we want to use those files, let's say when we want to access an image, the server doesn't have to do anything with it. It doesn't have to run some code on it to access it. This is different than, for example, app.js, where the server has to process this code before it gives it to us. It doesn't just hand us this code right here, it processes it. So that's not a static file. But yeah, our CSS file isn't ever going to change. It can just be given to the browser as it is, which means that is a static file. So what we're going to do is tell our site or our server to serve files inside the public folder as static files. Now, don't worry, I know that probably doesn't make any sense to a lot of you, but don't worry about it. All you need to know is that we're going to specify that for CSS files and images and stuff like that, that it's going to look in the public folder, okay? So just follow along. That hopefully will make a little bit more sense to you in just a second. So what we're going to do is specify that underneath this views part right here. It doesn't really matter where we put it, but let's just put it there. Now what we're going to do is say app.use, like this. Inside there we'll say express.static, man, I can't spell today, express.static, and then inside there we need to put the path to the public folder. So this public folder we just created. So the path to the public folder is just public. This is in the root of our site like this, public. Okay, so we could just add public like this, and it would work, because like I said, that is the path to the folder. But a better approach is to use the built-in path object that Node.js comes with. So we're going to use that. So right at the top, we're going to say const path equals require, and then in there we'll just put path. So we're using the built-in path library. And then what we can do is take that path object, and then instead of just adding public here, what we're going to do, this is a better approach. We're going to say path. So inside there I've put path, and then dot join, and then we're going to join __ dir name for directory name. Remember, that's 2 underscores there, that's not 1. 2 underscores dir name, however you say that, directory name. That basically gives you the absolute path to the file that's currently operating. So whatever file is currently running when it evaluates this line of code, it will give the full path to that file. And then what we're going to do is join that on with public, like this. Okay, now, like I said, essentially this does the same thing in our case as if we just wrote public in there, but this is a better habit to get into, because if something changed with our path, let's say we move some folders around, it might break what we had if we didn't use this. So this is just a safer way to do it. So like I said, it essentially does the same thing, but add that in there, and let's go ahead and start our server. So npm start. Now if I refresh the page, we should hopefully see this turn red, which we do. So that's it, we know it worked. So just to reiterate what we did, we basically used this line to specify that anything inside of this path, which happens to just be the public folder, anything inside the public folder is to be served as a static file. That's what this does, it serves anything inside this path as a static file. And static files essentially mean they can be accessed directly. So if we went to css/login.css, we should see our file, and we do. We see the static file given to us because we specified that anything inside the public folder is to be served as a static file. So yeah, there it is. It's confusing, I know. It did take me a while to understand it fully when I first looked at it, but to be honest, you don't really need to concern yourself with this anymore. We've added this now. That's it. To continue with this course, even if you don't understand how any of this works, it really doesn't matter. Just know that our pages can access files we put inside this public folder. That's all you need to know. If you don't understand it in more detail than that, don't worry about it. The good thing is, we aren't actually going to be doing a whole lot on static files.